Hey all, Alex here at your home of the Music Deep Dive, and today we'll be doing a review of the 1844 novel by Alexandre Dumas, The Count of Monte Cristo. I talked about Dumas already in my review of The Three Musketeers, but one person who we didn't really touch on was Auguste Maquet, born the 13th of September 1813 in Paris, died the 8th of January 1888 in Paris. Maquet was a historian turned literary who developed a strong working relationship with Dumas in the late 1830s and especially the early 1840s, contributing to many of Dumas' novels during this period of time. While his exact contributions aren't always entirely clear, we do know that Maquet was primarily responsible for creating plot outlines and ideas, while Dumas also contributed ideas and was then responsible for the bulk of the actual writing. Maquet received financial compensation but was never credited as a co-author, and when Dumas fell into debt and the payments stopped coming, Maquet sued Dumas to obtain those writing credits. He was unsuccessful. The Count of Monte Cristo is based in part off of a Maquet plot idea, but also borrows from a recently published Dumas novel, the 1843 novel Georges. In that novel, the main character, a white-passing African man that Dumas partially modeled after himself, exiles himself from society, obtains a thorough education, and re-enters society with an eye to destroy those who have wronged him. While not dealing with the same racial considerations, especially since those victims of the revenge plot in Georges are mostly plantation owners, the Count of Monte Cristo takes that entire revenge idea wholesale and sets it to the backdrop of post-Napoleonic France. Our lead character here, Edmond Dantes, is falsely accused of being a Bonapartist, and he is sent to prison. And when he escapes, his goal is nothing but vengeance on those who caused him suffering. It's a revenge plot of the most blatant order, and obviously based off of the book's success, it was a story that people were captivated by. Note here that I am reviewing the translation by Robin Buss, born the 10th of May 1939 in Hendon, died the 16th of December 2006 in London. Buss was a pop culture writer who did a lot of Penguin Classics translations of French novels and other novels in the 1990s and 2000s. So the version that I read, Buss's translation, is the unabridged version, the Penguin Classics version that totals 1,276 pages. And if there's nothing else you take away from this video, I need it to be this. Do not, under any circumstances, buy an abridged version of this book. Apart from maybe a few sentences here and there, I could not imagine anything in this enormous, awe-inspiring narrative being cut out. The whole idea is that Dantes is compiling this plot for revenge that not only takes years to prepare, but years to enact. Once he re-enters the story as the Count of Monte Cristo, this mysterious and incomprehensibly rich fellow who is more clever and educated than the rest of high society combined, there are so many interactions he has with these other characters that build up to what's to come that I think it's a disservice to that build-up for any of those interactions to get removed. They all play these little parts to get to that point. Now, is 1,276 pages a hell of a lot to get through? Absolutely. But this story was so compelling that I read the last 1,000 pages of this book in 2 days, if that tells you anything about the level of storytelling we have going on here. And I don't know that I was expecting a narrative like this to be so compelling when you constantly have this expectation in your head that the main character will be getting his comeuppance. You're anticipating the outcome very early on in the story. But the steps it takes to get to the actual revenge being carried out are so layered and so calculated that it doesn't matter. You're fascinated watching Dantes use not just the Count of Monte Cristo alias, but several other ones to create this fictional web of personalities that all come together to seemingly validate the existence of the Count. That's the reason they exist, even though nobody else can verify his story or where the hell his wealth stems from in the first place. And the revenge plot itself? Well, I think it would be the worst thing in the world to spoil too much of how it's orchestrated, so I'm not going to do that. But what I will say is that each of the characters who will be victim to this scheme get their own unique treatment, whether it's one that involves blatant murder or one that more is focused around the character's social or economic destruction. You get a wide variety of these different tales and different approaches that gradually unwrap themselves, and if that wasn't enough, the plots adapt themselves over time as things are added to the fray. You can see the Count change or even reverse his plans when he learns new information. It's all such a masterful stroke of plot construction, and as you can probably guess, the outcomes to a lot of these narratives are oh so satisfying. Much like the Three Musketeers, Dumas builds these characters in very vivid ways, both the protagonists and the antagonists, and the extreme time span allows them to evolve over that time, particularly the main love interest, Mercedes. I think her character development is fascinating. They evolve in a way that reminds me of Pushkin's Eugene Onegin. All of these evolutions are cool, but Dantes is the centerpiece, and he is such an enormous character that you could make multiple videos on his development alone, growing from this well-intentioned but slightly cocky sailor who goes through this immense hardship to become the Count, this collected, intimidating, major figure who, in his own words, endeavors to play the role of God in all of these people's lives, for better or for worse. That switch is emphasized by how the novel's narrative perspective changes, from viewing Dantes' internal monologue in the early part of the book, to then starting to view him via the perspective of other characters when he transitions into the Count, adding that extra element of mystery and uncertainty about what he'll do next, even though you also know what his goals are because you've already spent that time with him in the outset. And if that wasn't enough, the Count himself evolves in his goals, especially in relation to the Morel family, who he is actively trying to support since they supported him as a young lad, and his goals also evolve when his revenge plot goes wrong at one point and takes out a character that he didn't intend to kill. The end of the book, kind of in conjunction with all that, evokes all of these spiritual and religious themes and intertwines them with these kind of dialogues about mortality, and all of that centers around the very last part of the Count's plot that the reader is already aware of. They've been made aware of this at least 100 or 200 pages prior, and you're just waiting on it to be revealed, but it takes such a long time that it makes you second guess whether or not it's even going to happen. Again, how a book this long can keep you on the edge of your seat for this long, I'm not sure I can explain, but goodness, this was a ride up until the very last page. I just don't know what to say anymore about this. I don't want to focus on ranking books too much during these videos, but of all the 200 plus books that I have read for this project, about maybe 50 of which I've reviewed now on this channel, this has been the one that has excited and impressed me the most to date, and the one that has brought me the most joy. And I knew going in that I would like it based on how many people had recommended this to me, including some close friends and family, but this was still like nothing I would have ever expected. I could not have been prepared for how much this book impacted me, rocked my world, if you will. Please check this out. Please make sure it's the unabridged version, and let me know your thoughts, because I'd love to read them, whether it's your first time reading this book or your 40th time reading this book. And that is it. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, more reviews are to come. Tell a friend as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here at your home of the Music Deep Dive.